All right, let me okay, good volume. All right. Here's a movie review that I don't think many people are going to go nuts over, but I kind of need a movie to review. I went to Comic-Con last Saturday, so I decided to review a comic book movie, which considering the fact that I'm seeing Avengers Endgame this weekend, yeah, two comic book movies in a row to counteract the two musical movies I reviewed. Anyway, so this week we're reviewing Aquaman, and this movie I actually saw it a few days ago, and it was my friend Eli's idea to watch the movie. And the movie is another attempt by the DC people to try and keep up with Marvel. So this review will kind of be me explaining how it was kind of a step forward and a few steps back. The one thing I want to say is at the beginning where they established the backstory for Aquaman and how his parents met and how he was conceived, that was actually very well done, and you got the emotion out of it. It did tug at the heartstrings, and the characters were developed enough and interesting enough that it kind of got you engaged. The problem is that the rest of the movie, it really has a huge pacing problem because it feels like a lot of the movie is on fast forward because it's just trying to get to the climactic fight between Aquaman and whoever the villain is. Um, yeah, it's he's not. I don't think comic book movies have really had. I don't think the DCEU has really had a memorable villain since. Well, I don't think DC movies have had that memorable of a villain since the Joker from The Dark Knight. I think the closest you can get is Zod from Man of Steel, but that's about it. Um, so the reason why I have issues with the pacing is that there's not that much development. The characters are basic enough for you to understand what kind of people they are, which works to the movie's advantage. But I feel like there's not enough development because the movie is so concerned about getting to the climax fast. Almost like it's not proud of what it has and is trying its hardest to get to the end. And another thing that is another problem with the fast pace is that if you're someone like me who has heard of Aquaman but doesn't necessarily know the mythos or the backstory, a lot of the stuff that maybe a reference from the comics is just going to be a tad weird and confusing. So it was really hard for me to understand how I was supposed to react to something, what I was supposed to get excited for, what not. A lot of the Easter eggs, I just kind of sat there thinking, okay, that happened. And another problem with the movie is that Jason Momoa. Well, Jason Momoa, he's one of the good things about the movie. He's charismatic and entertaining enough that you want to follow him. He does seem kind of like a laid back sort of guy, but he's one of those guys that he likes to have his fun, but he's not afraid to get serious. Which I love characters like that because that's kind of something I can connect to because I myself am a silly person, but I can be serious when I have to be. Although I am not as good looking or as badass as Jason Momoa, so probably a deal breaker right there. Um, but the relationship between him and Mira in the movie, played by Amber Heard, was chemistry. I mean, there is some chemistry, but a lot of it kind of falls on the typical, oh, we're going to act like we don't like each other, but then fall in each other's arms at the end. And I don't necessarily mind that because a lot of movies do use cliches or overdone story threads to help drive the plot forward because the movie doesn't require a whole lot of thinking. And just because something's been done before doesn't mean it can be good. I mean, we've had so many superhero movies so far, for example, that most of them hit bullseyes, even though a lot of them do sort of follow a very similar formula, especially with the Marvel movies. But again, with the pacing, because it's so fast, there's not enough time to give us more chemistry than what we got, which isn't that much. So I kind of felt like they didn't really give enough time for us to get a sense that these two, they're at odds with each other, but there's a little twinkle in their eyes that they're ignoring now for whatever reason. But honestly, the movie it's not really supposed to be grand. It's not supposed to make you think. It's just supposed to be a fun, dumb action film. But I will say that the final battle, some of the creature designs do look a little ridiculous, like the octopus banging on drums or something to try and make this scene badass. And did I just step into a Disney version of The Little Mermaid meets 300 or something? Yeah, that's kind of what it looks like. Um, but overall, I think the movie is fairly solid in parts. I mean, it has its moments, but again, it feels again. I feel like I'm playing a rushed version of the video game, and that's not as much fun as actually seeing the movie and letting it breathe, letting it sit, let it be calm. I'm not. I don't need this movie to be 3 hours long. I'm seeing Avengers Endgame for that. But I'm just asking for a movie that could have been a few minutes longer and maybe I'm not asking to go from 200 miles per hour to 30. I'm asking to go from 200 miles to 150. You know, something a little, something substantial, but not too extreme. So I think if the movie had slowed down a little bit and fleshed out the characters a little bit more, I think I would have liked it a lot more. But overall, I mean, it's not a bad DC movie, live action one. And I think DC is kind of getting better because with Wonder Woman, Shazam, Justice League, and Aquaman to an extent, I think those four movies are kind of proving that these movies can be better and aren't just melodramatic bullshit. But overall, that's my thoughts on Aquaman, and I might be doing a crossover review or a solo review of Endgame, and I'm not sure how serious spoilers are going to be by the time I actually get around to filming, releasing that review, but um, this Monday, I'll be doing my guitar cover for Rendezvous by Bruce Springsteen, and that's pretty much all I can say on that